cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our reaction, review, discussion, working our way through emotional feelings of Secret Invasion. This is episode 2, and this one was called Promises. This one picks up right after Captain Marvel, and they go off to find a home for the Skrulls.
Right.
So they show 1995, and then they show 1997. Like after a little bit, and they have a meeting with Talos and Fury, with a bunch of Skrulls asking them, "Hey, we went and tried to find you a place. We weren't able to find you something. So if you come here and help me live as humans, be here for me, I will find you a home. Me and Carol will find you a home." And that is the catalyst for Garrick.
Garak.
I have it saved.
Gravik.
I was close.
All the right letters,
Yeah.
just not right order.
And Gravik was at that meeting, and it's the catalyst for why Gravik is so
angry.
I was gonna say petulant little child, but yes. I really liked that I knew that they were going to fill in that hole.
Yeah.
Of why the Skrulls don't have their own world already in 2025 in the Marvel universe.
Right, and I mean, I was, I've been confused about, like, we left off with Captain Marvel, of them all getting in a ship and going off to find a planet, and now suddenly they're all here.
Yeah.
And so
why?
What happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah.
And I like that they spent, they don't have to spend a ton of time, but they spent enough time to say, we went out, we tried to find something. Every time we found something, our people got attacked.
Yeah.
And Talos was like, even on the train later on, when he tells Fury that there's 1 million Skrulls hiding in plain sight on Earth, and Fury doesn't know, that, like, I didn't know what else to do. We had done everything we could. I'm trying to save
and people are still coming.
Yeah,
because we told them this was where we were, and so they're all still coming.
Yeah,
and so now we have a bigger problem.
Yeah, and I want to get to that conversation they have on the train in a minute, but the idea of Fury asking them to be his spy network adds some credibility to why Fury is such a good spy, but it also puts blame on him, which is what Gravik is really why he's so upset. Is that they haven't gotten what was promised, and you never promise things that you don't think you could absolutely totally do. Now, Fury was a young operative at that point in time.
Right. But still, I mean, you're using, and to go back to, I mean, there was several conversations in this episode between him and Rhodey, and then between him and Talos on the train about, being a black man, or being, from that culture, and how black people were treated when he was younger, and telling Rhodey, hey, we're brothers, we should be here for each other. Except he basically did the same thing to the Skrulls.
Yeah,
he promised them. I mean, he didn't enslave them, but he made promises to them, and had them. I mean, I guess he did sort of enslave them.
He didn't. I wouldn't call it enslaving them, but I mean, indentured servitude.
Yeah,
I think is much more of a better way. I mean, it's essentially the same thing.
He made them do things for him without pay. I mean, their payment was, "We'll find you a planet," and they never got that. So
right.
Yeah.
I one of the things I really liked about Captain Falcon and the Metal Arm Guy show was that they didn't lean away from the conversation of there is a black man carrying Captain America's shield and being the symbol of America,
Right.
a country that has treated people of color terribly throughout their history.
Right.
And I'm glad that they leaned into that. I'm also glad that they leaned into it here because you're talking about refugees, uh, another race of refugees, and instead of America, it was Earth that they came to, and so
Right.
the all of the everything matches for how people of color were treated in the country as how the scrolls have been treated, at least within the MCU. I know it's different in the comics, but within the MCU, they've been treated very much the same way. And so I like that they spent that time to sit there and I think it would have been I think it would have cheapened the scene if they didn't talk about it when Rhodey and
Yeah.
Fury are talking.
But they're not. I mean, so far now he may actually, because at some point Fury's got to say, "Hey, I did this," whether it's to them or to himself
Right,
or
right.
whoever. So he's going to have to come right out and say it.
Yeah.
But they didn't in this episode. It wasn't said, right? It was just he's telling a story
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
train, and then you know him and Rhodey are sitting together. They have history. They felt like there was a connection on the Avengers team, specifically between the two of them, because they were both black men.
Right.
So they had, a shared um, uh, history or
Shared experience.
Experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, they didn't. It was just kind of part of the story, but um, it's yeah. If you think about it, you understand what they were doing or
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
there.
Yeah, and I it ties that's why we keep talking about the train scene too with Talos and Fury. It's that they tie together with each other.
Hmm.
You have two people who have been on the same path together for quite a long time, and they're both breakup scenes.
Yeah.
And they're both dealing with the same essential conversation. And Talos finally coming out to Fury and saying, "Yeah, there's a million scrolls here," but also him saying, "You were gone,
Yeah.
and we had to figure it out on our own."
Yeah.
And then you came back, and your boots were on the ground for 2 seconds, and you went and hid on your space station.
Yeah.
And instead of like being here for us, like we have been there for you, you ran away.
Yeah.
And I love that they're talking about that part too, because all of Phase 4 was the grieving of what happened with the snap, and
Right.
and all of it had to do something level with grief and dealing with your grief and dealing with your trauma and everything. But everybody has dealt with their stuff except for Fury,
Right. Because he went and hid.
because he went and hid, and
Yeah.
he reneged on his promise of this race of people, and now that is coming back on him.
Yeah.
And that whole scene of him telling them about my mom and I used to ride the train and it was terrible, and it is a parallel to the scrolls being on a ship,
Yeah.
off on their own and trying to make their lives as best they can,
Yeah.
and in the game they played, and I just love that they aren't shying away. This is a slow burn of a show, but they're also taking the time to have this intimate moment between two major characters and say there's depth to what these guys are doing, and there's depth to both of these actors.
Right.
Samuel L. Jackson is proving that he can be a serious, actor. He can play a villain. Go watch him in Django. But he could be a serious actor, and he's doing some really good stuff. And
Yeah.
I think if you just watch those two scenes, um, outside the context of this being a superhero show,
Yeah.
attached to the
Yeah.
MCU on Disney Plus, if you just watch those two scenes, you are getting the full on espionage depth of what this show is trying to be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know specifically that it's espionage, but it's definitely. I mean, both of those scenes are um, actually the whole episode
Yeah.
is the whole episode where Fury is involved is um, you don't have anybody on your side anymore.
Yeah.
Like you have all of your bridges are now burned.
Yeah.
Maria's dead. Talos is, you kicked him off the train.
You broke up with him.
and
Rhodey broke up with you.
Rhodey broke up with you, so now he has apparently one person.
I want to get to that last. Because
okay.
that's part of Scroll Watch. Okay, so we have the espionage, the ramifications of the bombing. Gravik goes to the council meeting and pretty much says, humans are screwed. We're just helping the process along. This is our planet. Stop living in the lie that is we're going to go find our own. We found our own. It's this one. We're just going to kick the people that are here out.
Right. We're going to do to them what has been done to us.
Right.
Multiple times.
And he forces the council to vote him in as the general of the Skrulls. Everybody agrees except for the one. And I like that he says you will not be harmed. Like he's not wanting to harm any of his own if he doesn't absolutely have to.
Which I found was interesting.
Yes, he does actually care about his people, but if his people cross him, which is what happens with the guy of the Americans against Russia who gets arrested, and the whole time when he's getting arrested, I'm an American, like trying to sell it. What he does in giving up the secrets to Olivia Colman's character, whose name is going to escape me until I look it up onto where is it? It's down here. Sonia Fallsworth, her coming in and interrogating him, and him giving up the doctors that they're working on. Like once Gravik knows that that's what happened, that he doesn't know what it is, but he knows something was given up. He needs to eliminate. He needs to eliminate that person,
right?
And so he doesn't want to hurt his people unless they hurt him, or the major plan,
right? Which I think that she has the potential to do, and she did. I mean, she called Talos as soon as she left the council. And told him. So I mean, I just found that interesting. I also, so what is Olivia Colman? Is she a super soldier? Is she, because I thought she was a Skrull because she breaks the lock on the door.
Yeah.
And then points it out, this is my relationship with doors. And so, obviously she is strong.
Yeah.
But so then I was like, okay, she's a Skrull, except she tortured a Skrull.
Yeah.
So
what is she? If she is really a descendant of Fallsworth from the Howling Commandos that followed Captain America around, is very possible that a version of the super soldier serum, which we know exists outside of Extremis, outside of
Captain, we
know it exists. So
maybe he was one of the ones that they
or his son.
Yeah,
she was
because
the
we know that they did it. Yeah, it could be her dad, which would have been his son. Could have been in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what England's role was in Vietnam. I'm not super up on that.
Well, there's also, there's the Crimean War.
Yeah, but
there's other
the
things
Falklands. Yeah, but they were doing it to, unless they were doing it as early as Korea. They were doing it around that time, so it would have to have been a bigger war.
Yeah, I don't. When they announced Olivia Colman in this show, my brain broke because she's got gold statues.
Yeah,
and it wasn't that she was hired; it's that she called Kevin Feige and said, "Put me in a show."
Yeah, because she's amazing.
So if someone like Olivia Colman, of her caliber of actor, is wanting to be in a show like this, she's going to be something much more important than just the liaison to the British Empire for whatever.
I mean, I thought she might be like, I thought, not the prime minister, but some sort of head.
They called her something in the first episode. I'm trying to remember what they called her. I don't remember.
Yeah, obviously she has some sort of position.
Yeah.
She's got some wealth, right?
She works for MI6, but I don't know if she's in MI6
Right.
or. But
is there an M? Really?
I mean, other series say there's an M, so there's an M. But she's definitely somebody of some circumstance. And when the whole conversation at the meeting, one of the scrolls at the board of directors meeting, said, "What if Fury calls the Avengers?" And Gravik says, "I have something to deal with that."
Yeah.
And then we get to see Gaia sneaking around and finding the doctors, and then the guy who is being tortured by Falsworth, by Sonya, he gave up the Dalton name, so they're obviously working on something. So I said when Gaia went into the followed Gravik's second command and found the doctors, I kind of did the whole super scrolls.
Yeah.
Then Gaia later on pulls up the computer and brings up a list of research things that they're looking at. On that list was Extremis, Groot, Frost Beast, which was in Thor: The Dark World. Again, should watch Thor: The Dark World. It's important.
They're all important.
And Cole Obsidian, who is the Hulk size Black Order that was Thanos' group. They got his arm cut off by Wong.
Yep.
So they have pieces of all these different things. They're genetically trying to build Super Skrulls. Now, we know in the trailer that Gravik does something during an attack where he throws, and it looks like it looked like the Venom stuff coming out of his arm, but now that we know it's the Groot, whatever.
Yeah.
So they're trying to splice together all of these different things to make them genetically superior. So when the Avengers do show up, which I do very much feel like something like that's going to happen, that they are able to fight against those of superpowered essence.
Yeah.
That is what this episode was about. Yes, it's about Fury and him having to deal with all of his stuff, but this was the slow burn of we are building Super Skrulls.
Yeah. It's an onion. There are many layers.
There are many layers.
So, and then to go back a bit, when Gravik and his right-hand guy were in getting the American hostage out of the butcher shop, Gaia got out of the car and went around the corner and was making a phone call.
Yeah.
And it sounded like she was speaking in Skrull. I couldn't tell.
It was Skrull or Russian. They're still in Moscow.
Yeah.
So.
And so she was speaking a foreign language to somebody. And I was like, I wonder if she was the one that gave up the house, the safe house, because from what we saw, he did not. The American guy did not give up the safe house. That doesn't mean he didn't, because he was being tortured when we come into the room.
Right.
He didn't give it up to Olivia Colman's character, but I was like, oh, she is the one that gave up the safe house, called the cops, and they were busting it, which could still be what happened, but then they killed him, and she was not happy about. I mean,
in Gravik's eyes, we as the audience are supposed to see it as in Gravik's eyes. He believes the American was the one who gave up the safe house.
Right.
But we know, or at least we think, that Gaia was the one that did it.
Right, but I don't understand what her motive was, unless
I don't know if we
Gravik.
I don't think we're supposed to right now.
so that they had an excuse to kill him.
Right. I because of the essence of what this show is, I don't think we're going to know everyone's full um their full
Motives
motive or at least
reason.
yeah,
Yeah.
until we get to the very end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, they wouldn't have shown it. I would think they wouldn't have shown it
unless it was something important.
unless it was potentially going to be revealed later. Unless they just assume everybody's gonna
Yeah.
assume she did it. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think right at this point in time we're supposed to be asking this question and not have an answer for you
Right.
now. That's where we're at. That's where the show is supposed to be at.
Yay, we did it.
Well,
We're
I
doing
think
what we're
next
supposed
week
to.
we'll get a little bit more of that layer peeling back.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I don't think we're supposed to know what her true intentions are until the end.
Yeah, I think we're also going to get why Fury went to Spear.
Yes.
Was it the Spear?
Yeah.
For so long. I think that at some point we're gonna get. I don't know if it has to do with his wife. I don't know if they had a kid and the kid's up there. I don't know.
There's going to be something in there that's going to be
Yeah.
explained.
Yeah.
So Fury has a wife, a
Who's a
Skrull
Skrull.
wife. Now in Winter Soldier, Fury goes to Steve's apartment and says, "My wife left me," and that's after he's been shot. Now, at the time, it was a conversation in code,
Right.
and
Because Steve was like, I don't know. You're
Rogers,
married.
I didn't know you were married. And then Fury's typing out on the thing that the apartment has ears and all that kind of stuff. So that actually was not a lie. Fury does have a wife. And what that means in Skrull Watch 2023 is now I thought that Rhodey was a Skrull. But in that conversation that Fury and Rhodey had, Rhodey knows of Skrulls, and he knows that his security guards are Skrulls. So I think there would have been more hints that Rhodey was a Skrull at that point in time in that conversation. So I think, and and she said as we're getting ready to record, it's a little too obvious that Rhodey is a Skrull.
Yeah, just he was really a jerk last episode, and he's kind of being a jerk this episode. But then I started thinking about it, and if you think about, I mean, Rhodey has been a jerk the entire time. He's just been like a second or even third tier character to most of this.
Actually, I think his jerkiness came around when when Vision tried to kill him, not on purpose, and he fell from the sky and he.
No, I mean he was even like sort of throwing Tony under the bus in the hearings, and and then he showed up and he's like, I'm just gonna take your suit, and because I am a soldier first, and goddamn,
that's what I was gonna say. He's a soldier first, yeah. He's more worried about his country and the security of his country than he is his friends and stuff. He does get around to his friends and stuff, but he even made a point of like Fury said, "You're supposed to be protecting the planet." He's like, "I'm trying to protect my planet. I'm trying to protect my planet by leaving us a seat at the table," because they kept they're trying. They had that security meeting and they brought Rhodey in to be the like kind of the face of the American people instead of having the president being there. So yeah, that like now that we know that Fury that Rhodey probably isn't a Skrull, now the question is Fury a Skrull?
Right.
Or is he just fallen for somebody who is
a Skrull sympathizer, which he was to begin with? Or I had this thought before we sat down. Was she not a Skrull when they, as far as he knew, when they got married? He left, he comes back, and now she is a Skrull.
See, I thought that too, but she's the one who brought Gravik in at the beginning of the episode.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought the same thing.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I'm like, no, she's the one who brought
He knew
Gravik
she
in.
was a scroll. Yeah,
And was the one who is like, he's really smart. He's been through a lot. And that's when
yeah.
they
I
have that
forgot about that.
conversation of
Yeah, yeah.
living in plain sight.
Yep.
I There's a thought in the back of my head that actually Fury died during all the stuff in Captain Marvel, and Talos' brother, if Talos has an unknown brother to us right now, and Fury took that position, and now has this, okay, I've been out in the galaxy, I know what's going on, there's bigger threats out there for this place that's going to be our home, and he just lives as Fury.
Maybe he died from the Flurkin,
Right.
which is why he doesn't have his eye patch on anymore.
Right,
It's just
right.
showing you.
But that's what the show is. You're questioning is
Yeah.
is Sonya a Skrull?
Yeah.
Is Fury a Skrull? Is Rhodey a Skrull? Is Martin Freeman a Skrull? Like they've made a point of making all these questions of who is and who isn't, and that's been what all the marketing. And now the marketing this week has been, it's Fury against the world essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's very much this. Like I don't trust anything that I'm seeing in the show, which is the exact point of what they're doing.
Right.
And so I'm interested in like how they're going to continue on with the show. But the idea of once they said, let me back up. Once they showed us that Super Skrulls are coming, there's going to be somebody show up. There's going to be one of the Avengers show up.
Yeah, maybe.
Or multiple of the Avengers to show up.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love Fury, he's at this point in his 70s, if we're going by Samuel L. Jackson's age. Now, he lost 5 years because of the blip.
Right.
But he is not going to be able to do this on his own. And Skrulls on their own are not going to be able to check somebody who is now in control of all of them with superpowers. And so I feel like there has to be I feel like it could cheapen the other Avengers or Fury's abilities as a person. It cheapens the importance of the actual Avengers. That's someone's of Fury's humanness, if he is actually human, is able to beat these superpowered aliens.
Yeah.
I'm trying to word it right because I don't want to like.
Yeah, but if he could take on this entire race, no, it's obviously not all of them, but all these Skrulls, then what did they need the Avengers for?
Right.
I wonder if it's going to be Carol Danvers, and I wonder if we're going to get any resolution to the Super Skrull in this show.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I would think that they're gonna they might show it even more, maybe even show some test subjects, but they don't have time to make however many Super Skrulls they need to. And then, so just thinking about the trailer that we've seen for the Marvels, Fury's back in Spear when they all start to do the
start doing the switch. So I don't know when that's supposed. I think that's supposed to actually happen before this. They have not said what it is yet. Somebody is actually. I think somebody said that show is supposed to happen before we get to this point. I'm trying to look it up. I'm trying to remember. In the beginning. Oh, are we gonna go? Oh no! God damn it!
Buttons aren't toys.
Yes, they are. Maria Rambeau was the only one outside of Fury shown in that little montage of Captain Marvel, like how we got to that point in Captain Marvel. Maria was the only one shown. Not Monica, not Carol Danvers, not Coulson, not anybody else, but Maria was the one who was there. And so I was like, I wonder if that's a clue that we're going to get Monica Photon show up. And that's how Photon ends up being on Spear. And she goes out and she starts playing with
Right.
stuff. So
Right.
I think that makes a little bit of sense if that's the way they got to go with that story. And someone of her ability being there against the Super Skrulls makes a ton of sense. Now, there has been a bazillion and one rumors that Chloe Bennett, who played Quake in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., is supposed to be in this show. She has blatantly said, I'm not in the show. We don't believe you. We just watched Andrew Garfield do this for a whole year. She's somebody of ability who could be there.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's also been rumors that every new Marvel thing is they're going to introduce the X-Men this way.
Yeah.
So there's been a conversation of this is how we're going to get the X-Men, or at least one of the X-Men is going to show up.
It's Mephisto.
It's Mephisto. We could go on for a while with this episode because it was deep and it had a lot of stuff. But let us know what you thought of the episode in our talk about it. I won't even say reaction. We're just talking about it now. In the comments down below, please be nice. That's a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, it's Mephisto! It's Mephisto every time!